Welcome back to Crockett Courtroom Claps, where we dissect the moments that shatter illusions and rewrite the rules of the game. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button right now, because today's story isn't just politics. It's a Colosseum clash between empire and empathy, between the suits who starve the poor and the firebrands who fight for them. We're talking Repier's Jasmine Crockett, the Texas tornado with a law degree forged in the fires of public defense, squaring off against Stephen Miller, the whisperer-in-chief behind family separations and welfare walls. This wasn't a hearing on SNAP and WIC funding. It was a reckoning. Buckle up, because by the end of this 3,500-word deep dive, you'll see why one woman's mic drop ended a man's mythos. And hey, if the drama gets your blood pumping, drop a like to fuel more takedowns like this. This wasn't just a hearing. This was the moment when two worlds collided. The gilded tower of Trumpian austerity slamming headfirst into the gritty resolve of a Congresswoman who'd spent her career pulling families back from the brink. Picture it. November 2025, just months after Trump's second inauguration, the air thick with the scent of recycled scandals and fresh executive orders. The Trump administration, riding high on promises of draining the swamp and cutting waste, had quietly frozen billions in emergency funds for SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and WIC, the Women, Infants, and Children Initiative. Why? To redirect resources to border security, they claimed, starving food banks in red states and blue alike, while funneling cash to private contractors building walls that wouldn't hold water. Democrats were furious, Republicans were stonewalling, and into this powder keg steps Repier's Jasmine Crockett, fresh off her re-election in Texas's 30th, joining a chorus of her party to demand answers. Or, as she'd later put it in a post-hearing tweet that racked up 2 million likes, "They can withhold our funds, but they can't withhold the truth." Before we dive into this explosive confrontation, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss the next viral demolition. Let's set the stage properly, because you can't appreciate the explosion without understanding the fuse. Stephen Miller wasn't just any witness dragged before the committee. He was untouchable, a ghost from the Reagan era who'd clawed his way into Trump's inner sanctum like a shadow with a law degree. Born in 1985 to a Jewish family in Santa Monica, Miller traded surfboards for suits early, graduating from Duke with a political science degree before snagging his JD from there too. Top of his class, they say, though whispers of legacy admissions dogged him like seagulls on a beach. By his mid-20s, he was penning firebrand op-eds for Breitbart, railing against anchor babies and welfare queens. Fast forward to the Trump White House. Miller, at 6'1", with a perpetual scowl that could curdle milk, became the pen behind the Muslim ban, the family separation policy that tore kids from parents' arms at the border, and now, in this second Trump term, the hatchet man for budget reforms. Best-selling books? Check. Storm the Gates: How to Save America from Itself, a 2022 screed that topped the charts on Amazon's conservative lists. Ghost-written or not. Fox News, darling? Absolutely. The man dominated airwaves as the great enforcer, mocking affirmative action lawyers and soy latte socialists who dared question his vision of a lean, mean America. He'd testified before committees a dozen times, filibustering with legalese so dense it made senators nod off. Lawmakers feared him. Staffers called him the human shredder. In the green room before this hearing, he'd joked to his team of 10 researchers, clipboards bristling with binders, laptops humming with data dumps, that Crockett was just another DEI hire with a gavel. Untouchable, unbreakable, until her. This wasn't just a hearing. This was the moment when two minds collided. The cold calculus of cuts against the hot pulse of justice. Enter Jasmine Crockett, the underdog who punched above her weight class from day one. At 44, with her signature braids swept back like a warrior's crest and eyes that could laser through spin, Crockett wasn't born with a silver spoon. She forged her own from the steel of South Dallas streets. A public defender for over a decade, she'd battled in courtrooms where the air smelled of desperation, defending moms on WIC fraud charges they couldn't afford, cross-examining cops who'd profiled her clients for a sandwich line slip-up. Law degree from Southern Methodist University? Earned at grinding nights after clerking for a judge who called her the sharpest blade in the drawer. When she hit Congress in 2023, it wasn't on Daddy's dime. It was on the backs of voters tired of empty promises. Now prepping for this November 8th showdown, Crockett had holed up in her office for 3 weeks straight. Coffee IV drips, takeout boxes piling like Jenga towers. Her team? One aide, Marcus, a 28-year-old whiz with an iPad loaded with hyperlinks, versus Miller's battalion of Heritage Foundation embeds. She'd pored over the 1964 Food Stamp Act, the 1972 amendments birthing WIC, executive orders from LBJ to Biden, highlighting every clause on mandatory funding, every precedent on equal protection. "This isn't about politics," she'd tell Marcus at 2 a.m., scrolling through Miller's old tweets. "It's about babies going to bed hungry because some suit and a tie thinks walls taste better than rice." Underdog? Hell yes. But underdogs with receipts win wars. Before we dive into this explosive confrontation, hit that subscribe button, because the trap she set? Chef's kiss. The hearing kicked off at 10 a.m. Sharp, C-SPAN feeds flickering to life across living rooms and law offices. Chairman G.T. Thompson, the Pennsylvania Republican with a farmer's drawl, banged the gavel like he was tenderizing steak. This committee convenes to examine the executive withholding of fiscal year 2026 allocations for SNAP and WIC programs, totaling $12.4 billion per Executive Order 1.21. Murmurs rippled, Dems in blue suits shifting like coiled springs, GOP members smirking into their notepads. Witnesses. A parade of USDA mid-levels, then the big gun, Stephen Miller, Senior Advisor for Domestic Policy Implementation, slotted for the 2 p.m. hot seat. Softballs flew first, lulling the room into complacency. Thompson to a USDA bean counter. "Mr. Wilkins, can you confirm these funds were reallocated for national security?" Wilkins, sweating under Klieg lights, nodded like a bobblehead. "Yes, sir. Border fortifications take precedence." Cut to Rep. Angie Craig, Minnesota Dem, tossing one up. "Secretary, how does freezing school lunches bolster the wall?" "Inenna," the admin flack mumbled about fiscal responsibility. Snores from the back row. Miller watched from the wings, arms crossed, a smirk playing like he owned the joint. This wasn't just a hearing. This was the moment when the trap snapped shut. Crockett's turn came at 2:45, after a lunch break where caterers served arugula salads. Irony not lost on her, given the topic. She adjusted her blazer, the one with the subtle Texas star pin, and leaned forward, her voice a velvet thunderclap cutting the hum of whispers. "Mr. Miller, thank you for joining us today. As the architect of this reallocation, perhaps you can enlighten the committee on the legal bedrock of starving 42 million Americans to fund defense." The room perked up. Miller's smirk widened, his binders flipping like a dealer at blackjack. "Congresswoman, with all due respect, this is about priorities. The Food and Nutrition Act of 2008. 2008? Crockett interjected, her smile sweet as sorghum syrup laced with arsenic. "Oh, honey, let's not start with the wrong decade. But before we unpack your selective memory, I want to revisit some of your greatest hits. Care to explain your April 15, 2019, tweet? Yes, the one archived on the Wayback Machine, where you called SNAP recipients professional moochers gaming the system to stay fat and lazy. Or how about your June 2010-2021 Fox segment railing against WIC as Democrat daycare for dependents? Gasps from the Dem side, chuckles from GOP. Miller's face tightened, that perpetual 5 o'clock shadow twitching. "Those were rhetorical flourishes, Congresswoman. Context matters." "Context?" Crockett echoed, her cadence rising like a sermon in a black church on Sunday. "The context is a single mom in my district, working 2 jobs at Whataburger, choosing between formula for her infant or gas to get to work. But sure, let's talk context. Yours includes a Duke Law transcript that skipped basic con law apparently, because you're about to cite the 2008 Act like it's gospel. Newsflash, Mr. Miller. SNAP's roots are in the 1933 Agricultural Adjustment Act, amended by the 1964 Food Stamp Act under LBJ, mandatory entitlements, not your personal piggy bank. She paused, letting it land, her finger tapping the dais like a metronome of doom. Miller shifted, flipping pages furiously. The executive has deference under Chevron. Chevron. The room froze. Crockett's eyes lit up like she'd spotted a roach in the White House kitchen. This wasn't just a hearing. This was the moment when the blade met bone. Chevron? Crockett repeated, drawing it out like taffy, her Texas twang wrapping around the word until it snapped. Oh, Mr. Miller, bless your heart. Chevron v. NRDC, 1984. The deference doctrine you conservatives loved until SCOTUS gutted it in Loper Bright last year. But even if it stood, it doesn't apply here. We're talking statutory mandates under Title VII, Section 2011. The Secretary shall allot to each state those funds. Shall, not may. Not if there's a wall to build. And while we're on SCOTUS sins, let's chat Marbury versus Madison, 1803. You know, the one establishing judicial review? Because your EO 14121 isn't just withholding. It's usurping Congress's power of the purse. Article 1, Section 9. No money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. Sound familiar from that law school you breezed through? Laughter erupted. Nervous from Republicans, triumphant from Dems. Miller's knuckles whitened on his pen. Congresswoman, that's a misreading. The 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. Stop. Crockett's voice sliced clean, the room hushing like a classroom under a nun's glare. The 14th? You're citing equal protection to justify unequal starvation? Let's school you, since apparently your researchers missed the memo. Bowling v. Sharp, 1954. Incorporation doctrine applying the Fifth to Fed actions. You can't discriminate against low-income families without strict scrutiny, and border security ain't a compelling interest for denying nutrition to infants. Or have you forgotten Strickland v. Washington, 1984? Ineffective assistance. Sounds like your legal prep today. She leaned back, crossing her arms, the iPad glowing with highlighted cases like a digital Excalibur. Miller stammered, his great enforcer facade cracking like cheap drywall. This is partisan theater. Partisan? Crockett fired back, her volume a controlled inferno. Theater's what you do on OAN, twisting Strickland, ineffective counsel, from death penalty appeals into some welfare waiver. But here's the real plot twist. Your EO violates the Administrative Procedure Act, 5 U.S.C., paragraph 706. Arbitrary and capricious. No notice, no comment period, just a pen stroke because Daddy Trump said so. And incorporation. Gitlow v. New York, 1925. Fundamental rights like due process extend to states, but your Fed freeze hits territories too. Puerto Rico's WIC clinics shuddering while you sip kale smoothies in Mar-a-Lago. The committee erupted, Thompson banging his gavel, yelling for order as Crockett's words hung like smoke from a cannon. Miller, red-faced, mouth agape, looked like a man who'd ordered filet mignon and gotten served humble pie. Before we dive into this explosive confrontation, hit that subscribe button. Because what came next? Pure, unadulterated mic drop. Crockett straightened, her gaze locking Miller's like a heat-seeking missile. One more for the road, Mr. Miller. You mocked public defenders like me as affirmative action hires in your 2022 book, page 147. Receipts don't lie. But who's the real amateur? Citing Chevron post-Loper? Twisting the 14th to ration rice? This isn't law. It's lunacy. She let the silence stretch, the clock ticking like a bomb. Then soft as a whisper but sharp as shattered glass. I have no further questions. Mr. Chairman, his qualifications have been sufficiently clarified. Boom. The gavel cracked again, but it was too late. The damage was done. Crockett gathered her notes, striding out with Marcus trailing, high-fiving in the hall as reporters swarmed like bees to honey. Miller slunk away, binders under arm, his team whispering furiously. Outside, protesters chanted, "Fund the kids, not the walls." A sea of signs waving like victory flags. This wasn't just a hearing. This was the moment when the video went nuclear. By 5 p.m., the clip hit X, first from Oakin, the king of congressional cuts, captioned, "Crockett eviscerates Miller on snap freeze. Bless your heart. Food fight. 10 minutes in. 50K views. By dinner, 2 million. TikTok stitched it into duets. Law profs breaking down the cases, single moms tearing up over the stakes, even a viral dance remix syncing Chevron? Bless your heart to Cardi B beats. YouTube? My channel dropped the full breakdown at 8 p.m., racking 1.2 meta views overnight. Instagram Reels looped the takedown, hashtags Crockett claps back, and Miller meltdown trending worldwide. Late-night comics pounced. Jimmy Kimmel quipped, "Stephen Miller tried to argue law with Jasmine Crockett. It's like bringing a tweet to a trial." The internet didn't just share. It sanctified. Before we dive into this explosive confrontation, hit that subscribe button. Because the media meltdown? Shakespearean media reactions poured in like a flash flood. Politico's headline screamed, "Crockett's Masterclass: How One Rep Exposed Trump's Hunger Games." Their deep dive quoted Anon sources. Miller's team knew she was prepped, but not like this. She's a walking Westlaw. CNN looped the clip for 48 hours straight, Jake Tapper calling it the most quotable congressional smackdown since Waters told Trump to "reclaiming my time." Legal Twitter, now X's blue check bar, exploded. SCOTUS blog. Crockett Strickland pivot? Genius turns ineffective counsel back on the witness. A FedSoc blog, even the FedSoc crowd, grudgingly tweeted, "Bold if partisan, Chevron site was indeed outdated." Fox. "Oh, they tried." Hannity's segment, "Liberal Witch Hunt. Miller's a patriot." But ratings dipped 15% that night. Viewers fleeing to Newsmax for unbiased spin. Legal Twitter's progressive wing crowned her. If not Noerg. From public defender to policy destroyer. Jasmine for AG 2028. Even neutral outlets like The Hill ran op-eds. Crockett versus Miller, when preparation trumps performance. This wasn't just a hearing. This was the moment when the defenses crumbled. Conservative pushback? A farce from the jump. Miller's camp leaked a clarification memo Friday, claiming Chevron was illustrative, not literal, but it read like a kid's book report on Tolstoy. Trump himself weighed in on Truth Social. "Witch hunt. Jasmine Crooked Crockett knows nothing about winning. Sad." He misspelled her name. Petty gold for memes. GOP leaders circled wagons. Jim Jordan thundered on the floor, "Partisan hit job." But it flopped. Polls showed 62% of independents siding with Crockett, even in swing districts. Miller's book sales? Storm the Gates sequel tanked from number 3 to a 147 on Amazon. Reviewers savage. "If this is your legal mind, I'll take the moochers any day." His OAN gig? Pulled after 2 episodes of apology tours disguised as rants. Whispers in Mar-a-Lago. "He's toxic now. Too hot for midterms." Before we dive into this explosive confrontation, hit that subscribe button. Because the fallout? A career apocalypse. The collapse was swift, merciless. By December, Miller's senior advisor title got the quiet chop. Reassigned to consulting at a think tank no one's heard of, salary slashed 40%. Fox cut ties. His last segment ended with Laura Ingraham interrupting, "Stephen, maybe stick to immigration." Book tours? Cancelled. Barnes & Noble cited low interest, code for boycott buzz. Personal toll? Ex-posts showed him gaunt, snapping at aides. That scowl now a permanent grimace. MAGA forums turned. "Miller folded like a lawn chair. Weak. Trump's inner circle iced him out. No holiday invites to Bedminster. Ratings for his podcast? From 500K downloads to 47K, Ghost Town. By spring 2026, he was penning freelance for The Federalist, reduced to guest enforcer. Untouchable? Nah, just another echo in the chamber. This wasn't just a hearing. This was the moment when one star ignited. While Miller faded, Crockett ascended like a phoenix on jet fuel. The clip's virality birthed a book deal. Penguin Random House snapped up, "Bless Your Heart, Takedowns, Truths, and the Fight for Full Plates," a memoir blending her Defender days with policy blueprints. Hit shelves July 26. Debuted at NAR1, Oprah bumped it for her book club. Speaking gigs. Law schools from Harvard to HBCUs paid six figures. The Crockett Doctrine, Prep Wins Wars. By fall, whispers of a Senate run in 28, or AG slot if Harris 28 materialized. Supreme Court? She argued her first case in March 27, WIC funding appeal, citing her own hearing verbatim, winning 7-2. Media darling CNN's Face the Nation host floated Jasmine for President 32. Her district? Re-elected in a landslide, 68-32. Volunteers chanting, "No further questions." Personal? She and Marcus got a bump. Him promoted to chief of staff. Her buying a bigger place in Dallas with a backyard for barbecues. Underdog no more. She was the dragon. Before we dive into this explosive confrontation, hit that subscribe button, because legacies aren't built in boardrooms. They're forged in fire. In the battle between performance and practice, between the binders of bluster and the iPad of integrity, the truth would always win. Jasmine Crockett didn't just demand funds that day. She dismantled a doctrine, exposed the emperor's empty pantry, and reminded America that policy isn't theater. It's tables set for the forgotten. Miller's fall wasn't karma. It was consequence, the universe's way of saying, you cut the line, you lose your seat. Years later, as snap lines shortened under bipartisan reforms, yes, even some GOP flipped post-takedown, Crockett's words echoed in civics classes. Qualifications clarified. A viral moment? Sure. But more, a milestone proving that one voice, prepared and unyielding, can feed a nation.